So I got asked to do a video about the passive, the causative, and the causative passive, so that's what this video is. You request it, I make it, sometimes, if I'm interested and I have time. This video is going to be kind of a crash course. I'm going to stick to the basics and the fundamentals, because I think that before getting to an advanced understanding of these, or any of the complicated stuff, what really is required is 1, learning how to make them and practicing that, and then 2, really understanding how the particles work with each of these grammar forms. So let's start with number 1, which is the passive. So the passive voice in a language is when the subject topic of the sentence has something done to it, right? Rather than doing something to something else. So in English, I play soccer would be normal, and then soccer is played by me would be the passive version of that. To make the passive in Japanese, the way that we conjugate, as always, depends on our verb type. For irregular verbs, suru becomes sareru, kuru becomes korareru, although I don't know when you would actually use that very much. For a ru verb, cut off ru and replace it with rareru, so taberu becomes taberareru. And yes, this does mean that the passive form of a ru verb looks exactly like its potential form, like can eat, and also the kind of soft keigo form that is used to show respect. So something like sensei ga taberareta could be the teacher was able to eat it, the teacher honorably ate it to overtranslate, and the teacher was eaten. So you're going to need context and, as we'll see, particles to figure out the difference. Then for an u verb, you're going to change the final sound of the verb to the a in the chart, the a in the same, consonant chart, following the exact same rules for like negating a verb. So yes, if it ends in u, it becomes wa, not a. And then you add reru. So nomu becomes nomareru, hashiru becomes hashirareru, and asobu becomes asobareru. Now the first thing I advise you to do as a task, honestly, just after I explain this task, I'll close the video and do this for a while. That means you come back and watch the ads again, so I get like one more cup of coffee every year, is to practice this by just noting pretty much everything you do for the next few weeks or so, and in your brain changing it to the passive form. So if you drink coffee, don't say that, just say coffee was drunk. So watashi wa kohi o nomu becomes kohi ga nomareru. If you played a game, don't say watashi wa geimu o shita, say geimu ga sareta. Now, this is weird. This is a weird sentence. That's not how Japanese people talk. A game was played is weird in English too, kind of. But that's not the point. We're not trying to make sense. We're not trying to communicate with people. We're just trying to get used to practicing these forms so that when you have to use them in a natural, normal sentence, they come naturally. So it doesn't matter how strange it is. Like, when you go home, uchi ni kaerimasu, right? Say, uchi wa kaeraremashita. That's a really weird sentence. That's a very weird sentence indeed. Don't say that in normal life, but it's good practice. It will get you using that conjugation. Don't use that sentence in real life. I believe it's actually grammatically incorrect because you don't say the house was went home to. That's weird as heck. But the important part is that you're conjugating and you're getting the kind of muscle memory on how to conjugate verbs into these forms. All right, so welcome back. It's been a week. You've been practicing. Now you're back here. Great, thanks. Now we need to work on the particles. As for how to use this in like actual real life, we're going to need just 2 particles, wa or ga, and then the particle ni. So wa or ga is going to mark what gets the verb done to it. In a normal sentence, of course, this would be marked by o, right? Watashi wa ringo o tabemasu, right? Ringo is marked by o. It is the direct object. It is what is tabemasu. But if I say the apple was eaten by me, it's going to be marked by ga or wa. Ringo wa, ringo ga. And then the person or thing that does the verb to the subject or topic gets marked by ni. So the apple is eaten by me would be ringo wa watashi ni taberaremasu. And to practice this, again, I just recommend doing what you did earlier, but actually adding the doer. So don't say, I drank coffee. Say, coffee was drunk by me. Kohi ga watashi ni nomaremashita. And just do that, like when you do simple things. If you see somebody do something, change it in the passive voice and see how it goes. It's important to remember the role of these particles, though, because if one is dropped, remembering what the role of them is going to let you know what's missing from the sentence so you don't mistranslate. So, for instance, watashi ni taberaremashita means that something was eaten by me. Watashi ga taberaremashita means that I was eaten by something. So moving now to the causative form, that is used to show that somebody or something allows or forces someone or something else to do a verb. To make this form, suru becomes saseru, kuru becomes kosaseru, which you'll pretty much never see, but that is what it is. For ru verbs, delete ru and add saseru, so taberu, tabesaseru. And for u verbs, again, go to the a and then add seru, so nomu, nomaseru, iku, ikaseru, hanasu, hanasaseru, etc. And a quick important note, for all the verbs I'm going to be talking about, when you turn an u verb into one of them, it becomes a ru verb for all further conjugation. Again, I encourage you just to take some time to practice these conjugations to get them feeling like second nature. Again, like muscle memory, rather than something you have to think about, so when you need to do them, you can do that part without issue. As for how to use particles with a causative form, you're going to need wa or ga again, and then ni and probably o. But the way you use particles depends on what type of verb you're using. For transitive verbs, which is the most common, it's pretty straightforward. The person who is doing the forcing or doing the allowing gets marked by wa or ga. The person who is being forced or being allowed is marked by ni, and then you use o normally for the direct object. So if the teacher makes me read a book, sensei wa or sensei ga, watashi ni hon o yomaseru. If I flip that around and say, watashi wa sensei ni hon o yomaseru, that would be that I make or let the teacher read the book. However, if you use an intransitive verb, normally these can't take o, right? Like hataraku, it doesn't take o. But when you turn it into a causative verb, it can take o. And in this case, the person or thing being forced to do something is marked by o. So if the teacher makes you or allows you to work, that would be sensei ga watashi o, not watashi ni hatarakasemashita. Right? Hataraku, hatarakase, hatarakaseru, hataracasemashita. That said, in verbs that have like a transitive-intransitive pair, like shimeru, shimaru, you don't usually use the causative form with the intransitive. So, for instance, shimaru becoming shimaraseru would be very, very strange. It's like you force something to close itself. And like if you look on Google, shimaraseru, or even just shimarase with the ending cut off, so it could be any conjugation, we're getting less than 2,000 hits. It's very, very rare. Sometimes though, ni will appear in these sentences when the verb normally uses ni. So iku, for instance, is a intransitive verb. You normally use it with o, but in the causative form, you could say sensei ga. So that's again the forcer or the allower. Watashi o, because we're using the intransitive verb in the causative form. Toshokan ni ikasemashita, and that would be the teacher forced or allowed me to go to the library. Using o for me because of the verb type, and keeping ni where it is because we keep the particle that is normally used with the verb as is when we use these intransitive verbs. Just like how we use o normally when we use a transitive verb in this pattern. Now, the question, of course, is how do I differentiate between make and allow? And that is partially based on context. I would say that usually if there is no clear marker, that you can assume make most of the time. If you just saw like a floating tabesasemashita somewhere, that's probably forced. But there are ways to make it clear. To make the clear forced, adding an adverb like kyosei tekini or muriari, which both mean by force, makes it clear. And to make it clear that it's allowed, you can use the te plus a giving verb form. If you don't know the giving verbs, I don't think you should really be watching this video. Like, I would highly recommend learning the giving forms in Japanese before learning the causative. So I'm not going to explain it here. If you need a video on that, let me know. I'll make it sometime. But if I said, for instance, watashi ga kodomo ni, so I am allowing or forcing the children, okashi o tabesaseru. If I add tabesasete ageru, so giving outwards, right, going outwards, that means that I let the kids eat the candy very clearly. If you flip it around, kodomo ga watashi ni okashi o tabesasete kureru, that would be that they allow me, right, coming in. So it follows the same direction, that you do for just giving a general object. A small complication is that if you use the te morale form, you are going to switch the role of the particles. Sensei ga watashi ni hon o yomasete kureta is the teacher let me read a book, as is watashi wa sensei ni hon o yomasete moraimashita. So I received the favor of being allowed to read the book from the teacher. And while this can be confusing, just remember that we're following the same grammar pattern that we use when we use morale in general, as in watashi wa sensei ni hon o moraimashita. So you have that same person is the topic and they receive it from whatever is marked by ni. Finally, the causative passive means that the topic or subject of the sentence is forced to do the verb by whatever is marked by ni. Something else, someone else. To make this, suru becomes saserareru, kuru becomes kosaserareru. So as you've noticed, it's literally just the causative plus the passive, hence causative passive. For ru verbs, drop the ru and add saserareru, tabesaserareru. And again, for u verbs, make the causative, no mu, no maseru, and then drop the ru and add rareru, no maserareru. For u verbs that end in everything besides su, you can actually shorten this from a serareru to a sareru. So no maserareru can become no masareru. Indeed, sometimes these are more common than the quote-unquote correct form. For instance, ikaserareru has less hits on Google than ikasareru, but they both have, tens of millions of hits, so they're both okay. But you can't do it for ones ending su because you get sasa in there at the end, and it just sounds very weird. Again, I encourage you to try the conjugations. Whenever you do something, pretend you are forced to do it, right? Instead of saying watashi wa taberu, say watashi wa tabesaserareru. You're being forced to eat by, like the biological need to stay alive. Again, we're not focused on making sense here. We're just focused on getting the grammar patterns down in our brain. This one is pretty straightforward in terms of how you do it. The person or thing being forced, right? Causative passive, being forced, is marked by wa or ga. The forcer is marked by ni, and then if there's a direct object, you include it with o. So, and that's it. The hardest part of this one is just memorizing the pattern of how to conjugate. So let's compare all of these. If I eat a shark, that'd be watashi wa same o taberu. If a shark eats me, same ga watashi o taberu. Straightforward. If I am eaten by a shark, it would be watashi wa same ni taberareru. Whereas if the shark is eaten by me, that'd be same ga watashi ni taberareru. So if we drop part of the sentence, you figure it out by noticing what's missing. Watashi wa taberareru is I am eaten by something. Same ni taberareru is someone or something is eaten by the shark. Watashi wa same o tabesaseru would be that I force someone or something else to eat shark, because shark is marked by o, and remember, what we force is going to be marked by ni. Watashi wa same ni tabesaseru is I force a shark to eat something. And moving it around, same ga watashi o tabesaseru would be a shark forces something which is not stated to eat me, whereas same ga watashi ni tabesaseru would be the shark forces me to eat something. To put all the particles together, if I say watashi wa same ni sakana o tabesaseru, that means that I, the topic or subject, force the shark, what is marked by ni, to eat or allow it to eat fish, which is marked by o. Again though, o and ni might switch if we're using an intransitive verb which has been changed into a transitive causative verb. So if I make the shark go to the, I don't know, aquarium, I would say watashi wa same o suizokukan ni ikasemashita. Finally, if I am forced to eat shark, that'd be watashi wa same o tabesaserareru. If I am forced by my teacher to eat shark, watashi wa sensei ni same o tabesaserareru. But if we say same ga watashi o tabesaserareta, that'd be the shark is forced to eat me, whereas same ga watashi ni tabesaserareta would be the shark is forced to eat something by me. So that's it. If this video was a little confusing, if your head is buzzing a little bit right now, that's actually okay, that's good. You shouldn't expect to memorize all of this within a 24-hour period, but I do recommend taking it step by step. Go back to the passive, do the conjugation, and then make very, very simple sentences with it, changing your normal everyday tasks into the passive. Then do the same with the causative, doing the conjugation, and then changing your tasks into the causative. Did you drink coffee? No. You were forced to drink coffee. By who? Doesn't matter. Just find someone to blame and attribute everything you do to them. Your teacher is fine. Sensei ga watashi ni kohi o nomasemashita. And then for the causative passive, again, whenever you do a verb, try putting it in the form. And once you're comfortable with that, try pretending that everything you do is because you are being forced to do it by someone else. So once again, do you drink coffee? No. You are forced to drink coffee by the teacher. Watashi wa sensei ni kohi o nomasaremashita. Practice enough, and you'll get it. I literally, when I first was learning these forms, did all this. I would just drink coffee and be like, no, the coffee is drank by me. And that is how I learned them, and now they're stuck into my brain. And you can have that same fun thing happen to you too. The end.